Have you ever noticed how some topics seem to live in the shadows, whispered about, laughed about, or turned into jokes but rarely talked about honestly? This is one of those topics. We're talking about pen. I'll size a subject that has shaped confidence, self-worth, relationships, and entire egos for centuries. And let's be honest, in today's culture, size has almost become a symbol of identity. Bigger is better. Longer means stronger. Girth equals greatness. We've heard it all. It's printed into pop culture, comedy, locker room talk, and late night whispers. But have you ever stopped to ask, where did this belief come from? And more importantly, is it even true? Let's start with a reality check, not from rumor, but from science. Data from the Handbook of Urology and years of medical research show something fascinating. Most men dramatically overestimate what's average. If you've ever seen that classic urology chart, the bell curve of penis sizes, both flaccid and erect, you'll know what I mean. On that graph, the majority of men fall right in the middle, not tiny, not enormous, just normal. Yet, almost everyone assumes everyone else is bigger. It's one of the most common illusions in male psychology. And here's the twist. Even when people are shown accurate representations of size, their perception warps. In one study, participants were asked to judge a lineup of different, sized models, realistic, medically accurate, when the model was slightly larger than average, say, around 5, 7 or 6 inches, people routinely guessed it was huge 7, sometimes 8 inches. But when the model was average or below, their guesses were far more accurate. It's proof that the human brain, fueled by insecurity and comparison, can't even judge correctly. We're literally seeing illusions. So if you've ever looked down and thought, I wish I were bigger, science has an answer for you. You're probably completely normal, but there's another layer here, one that goes beyond biology. Pen-Al size isn't static. It changes more than most people realize. Think about it. Your body is constantly changing. Your temperature, your mood, your blood flow, your hormones. And yes, your penis responds to all of it. Some days you're more aroused, your blood vessels open wider, your testosterone is peaking. The room is warmer and everything looks fuller, longer, harder. Then there are days it's not. Maybe you're stressed. Maybe you're tired. Maybe it's cold, your circulation's low, or your testosterone's dipping slightly. And you look down and think, wait, did I shrink? No, you didn't shrink. You're just a human being with a body that responds to the world around you. Testosterone levels even fluctuate by season. Blood flow changes with diet, sleep, stress, and mood. So when people obsess over a single number as if it defines them, they're measuring something that doesn't even stay constant. Your size isn't one number, it's a range. A spectrum that changes with your biology, your state of mind, and your environment. Now let's talk about something that divides opinions: augmentation. In recent years, urologists have seen a growing demand for enhancement procedures, particularly using hyaluronic acid fillers, the same type used for facial aesthetics. And here's the thing, the conversation around this is often filled with shame and judgment. Some doctors call it unnecessary, others see it as empowering, but maybe, just maybe, we're missing the point. Because if we accept women getting breast augmentations to feel confident in a society that values certain aesthetics, why is it taboo for men to seek the same for themselves? If a man's self-esteem, confidence, or sexual comfort improves because he feels better about his body, who are we to shame that? If society allows one gender to modify their body for confidence, but mocks another for doing the same, that's not science, that's bias. So the real question isn't, should men do it? It's, why do we judge them when they do? And now, before you rush to Google, here's the responsible truth. If you ever consider enhancement, go only to a trained urologist. Not a cosmetic technician, not a dermatologist experimenting with fillers. A urologist is the only medical professional who truly understands pen, I'll anatomy the structure, the blood vessels, the nerves, the potential complications. Because unlike your face, you don't get a backup of this organ. You only get one. As one doctor famously said, if you can't get yourself out of trouble, you shouldn't be getting into trouble. Meaning, if your injector doesn't know how to fix complications, they shouldn't be performing the procedure. So if someone is going to handle that part of your body, make sure they've handled thousands before medically, safely, and expertly. Here's where the conversation deepens because underneath all of this, there's a psychological truth that no one wants to talk about. For some men, obsession with size isn't about sex at all, it's about control. It's about validation. It's about being enough. And when that thought becomes intrusive when it starts to occupy your mind daily, it can be a sign of something deeper. Small penis anxiety, a specific form of body dysmorphia. These are real, documented psychological conditions. And like any form of body dysmorphia, they can be treated not with surgery, but with understanding, with therapy, with compassion. Because the truth is, size doesn't define your ability to give or receive pleasure. It doesn't define your worth as a man. It doesn't determine your capacity to love, to connect, to satisfy, or to be confident. Those things come from presence, empathy, emotional connection, and confidence, none of which require inches. But society has trained men differently. We've created a culture where performance is the currency of masculinity, where the question isn't are you kind or are you honest, it's how big are you and how long can you last, and that's tragic, because when intimacy becomes a competition, pleasure disappears. When you're focused on proving something, you stop feeling it. That's why confidence, not size, is the real secret weapon. Confidence changes how you show up. It changes how your partner feels with you. And ironically, when you feel confident, your body responds better, erections are stronger, arousal lasts longer, and intimacy deepens. So yes, scientifically, size doesn't matter. But confidence does. Now, let's look at this from a wider lens. We're living longer than ever before. We have Viagra. We have testosterone therapy. We have regenerative treatments that didn't exist 20 years ago. That means more men are staying sexually active into their 50s, 60s, and beyond. So naturally, conversations about enhancement, performance, and satisfaction are increasing not because men are becoming vain, but because they're finally allowed to care. It's the same revolution that women went through decades ago, learning to own their sexuality without shame. And yet, when men try to do the same, we laugh, we mock, we say, "Oh, he's compensating." But maybe he's just doing what everyone else is trying to feel whole in a world that constantly tells him he's not enough. If we zoom out, this isn't just about anatomy. It's about identity. It's about learning that being a man isn't about size or stamina or dominance. It's about understanding your body and not letting misinformation define your worth. Every time you compare yourself to someone else, you hand over your power. Every time you chase an unrealistic standard, you lose a bit of your confidence. And every time you remind yourself that you're more than numbers, you take that power back. So maybe it's time to rewrite the script. Maybe the next generation of men will grow up not fearing comparison, but embracing confidence. Not asking, am I big enough, but am I kind enough, confident enough, present enough? Because the truth is size fades, but presence, confidence, empathy, those leave a lasting mark. So the next time you look in the mirror and start to compare, remember this. The data says you're probably normal. The science says it doesn't matter, and you're worth well. That's something no ruler on earth can measure. Most people never say out loud. Men aren't born knowing how to please, and women aren't born knowing how to express what they need. Between those two silences, billions of relationships live, struggle, and sometimes fall apart. We've built a society that teaches people how to have sex, but not how to connect, how to perform, but not how to feel, how to look confident without truly being confident. So let's go where most conversations never go, deep into the truth about pleasure, what really matters, what doesn't, and what science reveals when you look past the myths. The myth of performance: if you ask most men what women want, you'll get a list of physical things: stamina, endurance, lasting long, being big. But if you ask women, really ask them, without judgment, the answers shift completely. They talk about connection, about trust, about comfort, not just physical, but emotional. They talk about feeling seen, safe, desired, and science agrees. When researchers studied what predicts female orgasm, they found that physical technique alone was rarely the main factor. Instead, emotional connection, body confidence, foreplay duration, and communication predicted satisfaction far more consistently. So all the performance pressure, men feel all that stress about lasting 30 minutes, or being perfect every time, it's not even grounded in truth. Because the female body doesn't respond to speed or power, it responds to presence, to rhythm, to comfort, to consistency. If you're distracted worrying about yourself, your size, or your stamina, she feels that. If you're present fully there, fully calm, fully confident, she feels that too. Pleasure, it turns out, isn't a competition. It's a conversation. The forgotten organ hears something: mind, blowing, and yes, this comes straight from anatomy and medical imaging. Most of us were taught that the clitoris is that tiny button of tissue at the front of the vulva, but that's only a fraction of it. MRI scans show the clitoris actually extends deep inside the pelvis, like a wishbone, over 9 centimeters of internal structure. The visible part is just the tip, literally. So when people ask, why can't all women orgasm from penetration? The answer is simple: because the clitoris isn't just external, and it isn't directly stimulated by penetration for everyone. Some women need direct stimulation of the external glands. Others respond to the internal legs, the parts that wrap around the vaginal canal. And every woman's anatomy, sensitivity, and arousal response are unique. So the real key isn't guessing what works. It's learning to listen, and that's where confidence and communication come back into the story. A confident man doesn't assume, he explores, he listens, he reads her breathing, her movements, her sounds. He treats her body like a language, one you learn, not one you dominate. That's what real confidence looks like in intimacy: the ability to slow down, to stay curious, to care more about connection than performance. The mystery of squirting, science, and misunderstanding. Now let's talk about one of the most misunderstood topics in sexual education: female ejaculation, often called squirting. It's been sensationalized, mocked, and exaggerated, but science has finally caught up to reality. Here's what studies have shown. There are 2 different phenomena. 1. Female ejaculation, a small amount of milky fluid released from the Skene's glands near the urethra. 2. Squirting, a larger amount of clear fluid, primarily composed of diluted urine, mixed with small traces of prostate-specific antigen PSA and glucose. That means it's not fake, and it's not just pee. It's a physiological response triggered by stimulation of the G-spot area, which connects to the same tissues as the clitoris. And here's the beautiful part: it's not about performance. Not every woman squirts, and not every woman wants to. It's not a sign of better sex or superior pleasure. It's simply one expression of arousal. When women feel completely relaxed, emotionally safe, and physically open, sometimes their body releases fluid as part of that process. It's not a test, it's not a goal, it's a response. So when men treat it like an achievement, they miss the point. It's not about making it happen. It's about creating the safety that allows it to. Why so many men struggle to listen? Here's the quiet truth. Most men were never taught how to listen during intimacy. They were taught to aim for an outcome orgasm, satisfaction, approval, but not to tune into what their partner's body is saying. And that's not men's fault, it's society's. Porn culture, locker room myths, and outdated education all trained people to believe sex is something you do to someone, not something you share with them. But intimacy isn't about domination or even performance. It's about rhythm, energy, trust, every moan, every breath, every shift in her body. Those are signals. They tell you where to go, how to move, when to slow down, when to stop. The best lovers in the world aren't the most skilled. They're the most present, because presence turns the body into a conversation, not a competition. The orgasm gap. Now let's talk about a real phenomenon researchers call the orgasm gap, the difference between how often men and women climax in heterosexual encounters. Studies consistently show that men report orgasm in 95% of encounters. Women, around 65%. Why the difference? Because men are trained to seek their own release. Women are often trained to please. In same-sex female relationships, that gap almost disappears because the focus shifts from penetration to pleasure, from speed to sensitivity. So the takeaway isn't men are bad at sex. It's that men were given the wrong manual. We were never taught that pleasure is about communication. We were taught it's about control. And that's the real revolution, unlearning that lie. The power of slowing down. If you want to know the greatest secret in intimacy, here it is. Slow down. Pleasure isn't found in the chase, it's found in the stillness, in the pauses, in the moments when you stop trying to perform and start trying to feel. Your body can sense your focus, so can your partner. When you slow down, her nervous system relaxes. When she relaxes, her blood flow increases. When blood flow increases, arousal deepens. And when that happens, pleasure becomes effortless. That's why slow sex often feels more powerful than fast sex, because it builds energy instead of spending it. And that's the real language of pleasure, the unspoken rhythm of connection. How confidence changes everything. Confidence isn't just mental. It's biological. When you feel confident, your dopamine and testosterone levels rise. Your nervous system becomes more balanced. Blood vessels dilate more easily. Your performance improves not because you're forcing it, but because you're relaxed enough to let it happen. Confidence changes the chemistry of arousal. That's why insecure men often struggle with erection issues, not because of physical dysfunction, but because of psychological inhibition. When you're anxious, your brain triggers the flight response, and blood leaves your genitals to fuel your muscles. Your body literally can't perform when your brain is in survival mode. So confidence isn't just a feeling, it's a biological gateway. The more you trust yourself, the better your body works. The more present you are, the more your partner relaxes, and the more both of you relax, the better everything flows. Redefining intimacy. Maybe it's time to stop thinking of sex as an act. It's not something you do, it's something you share. It's not about lasting longer, it's about feeling deeper. When two people truly connect emotionally, mentally, physically, the experience changes. Time dissolves, insecurity disappears, there's no scoreboard, only breath, touch, trust, and that's the kind of intimacy that heals people, not the kind that drains them. The new definition of a good lover isn't someone with perfect technique. It's someone who can create safety, someone who listens without judgment, who isn't afraid to ask, "What do you like?" Who can say, "Tell me what feels good." A good lover doesn't rush, doesn't compare, doesn't measure. They build connection like building music, one note at a time. Because when two people truly listen, the body does the rest. That's not just romance, that's neuroscience. Because safety and pleasure share the same space in the brain. The moment you feel safe, your body opens. So if you want better intimacy, stop chasing better moves. Start creating better safety. That's how you become unforgettable, not because of what you did, but because of how you made someone feel.